to another tier list video. Today's tier list video is going to probably, well, hopefully it should make more sense than the last one. Last one was pretty goofy. I just did bouldering grades. This one's going to be climbing horns. Oh my gosh, climbing horns. So I have less things to choose from now because before I had 17 bouldering grades. There's not quite that many climbing holds. So again, no specific criteria. This is just my personal opinion, and you are free to disagree at the end of the video. Put your personal list down in the comments and tell me if you agree or disagree with my list. Also, I have ADHD and I did a really bad job last time. I have this bad habit where I like bang my mouse against the table. Don't ask why, I just a bad habit. My computer mouse. I'm going to try to control myself and not make a bunch of sound like this. So I'm going to try to catch myself this time. There's not a lot of background noise. And I do apologize for that in the last video. But otherwise, yeah, let's get into this. So we first have a jug, which is what this is right here. It's a jug, or what I like to call them is a Judy. Jugs Judy. Jugs Judy. Obviously, this is the biggest climbing hold that you can grab. This is a pretty fun hold. This is going to be found on a lot of your easier grades that, you know, like B0 to B2. You're going to find a lot more jugs than anything else, especially in a climbing gym. You'll find a lot of those. They're fun. I actually really, I mean, I could climb on like a, you know, like a, I don't know, like a fun jug ladder outside, you know. I could have a good time on that even. Hold on, let me fix this. What the fuck? This is not correct. I don't know how that happened. I apologize for that. That looks a little bit better. A, B, C, D, F. Okay. That's a little bit better. And actually, yes, we'll leave this right here. We'll put that in C. There's like nothing to write home about with jugs, but they're not like, you know, I'm not going to complain if I have to grab a jug. So, I think C is a good place to put jugs. Crimps. Oh boy, here, let me keep it down here for the time being. I need to stop grabbing it. Crimps, you know, that's like the hold that like when you start climbing, you think it's really cool to grab a crimp. You're like, wow, I can grab this small little thing and I have to like bite down really hard. You like feel really cool and you feel like you're really strong when you start climbing. I've been climbing for, I don't know, at least 8 years now, maybe 9 at this point. Um, I'm gonna be honest with you, the older you get, or at least for me, the less and less I like crimps. They're painful. And I've never had any climbing injuries. I'll be honest with you. I've never had any climbing injuries, so it's not like I have a bad experience with them personally, like where I got injured crimping. I just don't like them. They're sharp at times, and they're just painful on your fingers. Even when you're not like being really aggressive, they can be kind of painful. I mean, sometimes you feel cool on them, but for the most part, I'm not a big fan of them. I know a lot of people with your that have like the real small hands. You know, got your little squirrel hands. They love crimps, so you know I'm not someone who loves crimps, so I'm gonna put that in D tier. And I know that's real controversial, but I'm telling you, wait till you get old like me, like big old Chad here. You're gonna hate those crimpers. That moves us on to slopers. Again, that's it's the opposite effect with crimps. So when you start out climbing, you hate slopers. That's because you don't have the contact strength initially. You can't like dig anything. It's just you just slap this nothingness of a hold and just hope that you can stick. In my opinion, that's actually really cool. And the older I get, the more I like grabbing those because they're not painful to grab. So they're not painful to grab like crimps are. Crimps like just in is every single muscle in your fingers are screaming. Whereas a sloper is just very comfy. It feels really cool. It like those feel cool too, because like you're literally grabbing onto nothing and you're staying on. It's really cool. So I'm gonna put that in A tier. So next we have a pinch. That's what that is. It's a pinch, and that's a real narrow pinch. Pinches for me were kind of similar to like slopers earlier on, where like pinches were really hard for me when I started climbing. And I'll be honest, they're probably the one thing I haven't really proved on the most. I've probably proved upon them the least, is what I mean to say. Throughout all my years of climbing, they're probably the thing that are hardest for me. And I'm gonna be honest, my experience aside, obviously it depends on where you go. You know, if you go to like Spain, you're climbing on those like Mallorcan tufas or whatever they are. You know, there's lots of pinches there. But I mean, in my experience everywhere I've climbed outside, it's not that often that you find pinches. Now, obviously, this is an example of a pinch right here outside in this image. So obviously they exist outside, but they're not that common, and I just don't think they're that fun, to be honest with you. So I'm gonna put that on the same level as crimps. Next, we have pockets. If you want to get real technical, I could make a separate category for mono pockets, but I didn't think it was necessary. So I'm just going to combine these. I feel the same way about mono pockets as I do regular pockets, two finger or three finger. So pockets, that's a funny one because that's usually like something, again, when you start out climbing, you're like, what the fuck? Someone just puts their one finger in this little hole and then just yanks on it. And I'll be honest, you know, a lot of people get injuries with pockets too. It's very dangerous if your fingers aren't strong enough. And even some weird things can just happen because your fingers aren't really supposed to be separated like that. It's more injury prone just based off of that. So a lot of people don't like pockets because they get injured on them. In my opinion, when you have strong fingers and you can pull on pockets, you feel like a fucking badass. You feel like a fucking G, man. Fucking G, bro. They're like the coolest thing ever. And I know this sounds absolutely crazy, but they are literally my favorite thing to climb on. I think they're so cool. So this is probably the most controversial take on here. This is probably like the worst tier list in everyone's opinion. And I don't care. This is me. So I fucking love pockets. Mono pockets, two finger pocket, three finger pocket. I think a lot of people know that about me. Think people usually think, no, the people that know me either think pockets are my favorite or slopers are my favorite. So, but pockets are my favorite currently. I guess it's just currently. These things can change over time. So next we have undercling. So at this point, like these first five are really like your base holds. Like they're like the most commonly used holds, and these other ones are kind of they're not really they're different holds, but they're not really. It's very like situational. Like I'll explain a little better in a second, but this one's like an undercling, right? This next one, an undercling could literally just be a jug still, or it could be like a crimp, or there could be an undercling pocket, right? And you could even take that argument further and you could say like a slopey crimp is a slimper or a slopey pinch. Like you can break these things down. I could have a lot more holds on this list, but that's just too much in my opinion. So I just try to keep it a little more simple. So but just a basic undercling is what we're kind of looking at here. So I don't really hate underclings. I think they're an interesting one where there are certain scenarios where underclings, depending on your height and your arm length as well, can feel really good or terrible. You know, like one person get on a climb and the undercling is so hard to pull into, and it feels really difficult. And the next person get on it, and it feels really good because they fit into that box better. So they're really tricky in that regards. I mean, now if I really had to choose to pull on an undercling, I probably wouldn't choose to pull on it that often. So I don't know. I think I will probably put it in the same category as pinches and crimps. And now that I'm on it, I'd actually probably move crimps up just a bit more because now that I'm thinking about comparing crimps to pinches and underclings, I actually do like crimps better. I still hate them, but I like them better. I actually probably move jugs up to B category then too because I do like jugs better than crimps as well. So I think this is a little more accurate. Next we have side pull. Again, that's like a hold that like it's simply just the same as like a crimp or an edge, which is what we'll get to later, which is right here. A side pull, like, or it could even be like a sloper that you use as a side pull. Like it's very like vague, but it's simply the way you're climbing through it. You pull it on it from the side, but it just it's not like the actual hold surface is a side pull. It's just that's kind of what I meant to say earlier. Like pocket, like sloper, jug, crimp, edge. I should have probably included sooner in pinch or the surface, right? And how you manipulate that surface can turn it into an undercling or a side pull or just a gas stone, as we'll get to here shortly. So again, it's kind of vague, but when you are using a side pull as a side pull, I would give it uh I kind of actually do like it. I like compression type stuff. So I'd probably give that a C. Again, I don't love it, but I definitely like side pulls better than like pinches and underclings. Yeah, probably about the same as a crimp. I think that's pretty fair. And then next we have the lovely image for Gaston. Gaston, I guess you can't see it in the image here because I didn't use an actual image of someone using the Gaston pull, but it's simply like pulling down on like a crimp basically, but you're like engaging with your shoulder instead of like pulling straight down or pulling it more of like a side pull direction. It's almost like the opposite of side pull. You're kind of pressing into it instead of pulling down. So it turns into a very shouldery move. I'm not a big fan of those moves. Again, it's not really the hold surface that is a gas stone. It's just that's like the move, but I don't know. It made more sense to include side pulls and gas stones on this list, so I did. So gas stone, I actually dislike this a lot. I used to like them a lot more. I don't now. I guess that's just because I have weak shoulder. So I'm gonna put this in D category. Next we have edges. Their edges are kind of really not that different than like they're like the in between jugs and crimps is kind of what they are. Like you're probably half crimping on it, but you're not gonna be like you're gonna be a lot more comfortable on it than a actual crimp. But you're probably crimping the edge, perhaps but it's a lot more comfortable than actual crimp. I actually like them. I guess just because they're like kind of in between. They're better than a crimp, but not as good as a jug. So it's a little more challenging, I guess. It feels a little bit cooler. You're like, oh, my finger's strong, but they're not really that strong because it's still pretty juggy of a hold. So I'll put that in B category, similar as a jug. Next, we have our lovely volumes. Here's a picture of a volume. You're basically just climbing shapes. You're grabbing triangles and squares and circles. That's really all volumes are. There's not really an exact surface definition for a volume. It could literally be a sloper most of the times, is probably what it'd be. Or it could be, like a jug if you have like a big cube and you're like meat hooking on it. I guess I don't have meat hook on here. Oh, I messed up. Well, I'll throw meat hook at the end. Yeah, but then we have volumes. I guess you could also even crimp on the very little edge here of the volume. I know that happened at my old climbing gym. You could crimp the edge of a lot of the volumes. You might get a splinter doing that, but you can definitely do it. And it might be easier sometimes than using the actual surface of the volume. So, volumes can be fun. Sometimes you feel like an idiot because you're literally just grabbing shapes on the wall, and it feels really stupid. Like there's this like just swinging around on volume on freaking triangles and squares kind of feels really stupid sometimes. But I don't know, they're fun. You don't really find them outside either. There's no volumes outside. It's just like a gym thing. So I don't know. I like the better than crimps. Side pulls. We'll put that in B category. So then next we have cracks, like doing like off widths and some finger jams and hand jams and all that business. I don't really do that kind of thing. I don't do. I'm not a trad climber currently. Imagine as I age, I'll probably turn into a trad dad at some point. But currently, I am young and I'm in my prime, so I stick to bouldering while my mind and my body still work correctly. So I crack climbing I think is pretty cool, I'll be honest, but I'm not a big fan of myself. So I honestly really hate it actually. That's because I'm bad at it. So I guess I'd put it in F tier, but realistically, I think it's probably more like B tier, like how cool I think it is, but I'm not good at it. And then I don't have an image, but I'll just kind of say where I'm gonna put meat hook. So meat hook is like I don't know, you kind of like cup the hold with your hand, like the palm of your hand. Um, I actually really think meat hooks are cool. I guess it's kind of like grabbing a jug essentially, but it's not exactly the same as a jug grip or surface. Generally, it's something slopey. Anyways, yeah, it's generally like something slopey. So I would put meat hook honestly in A tier. I actually really like meat hooks a lot. I think they're pretty fun holds. So yeah, I'd put that in A tier. The only thing in S tier is pockets. The only thing in F tier is cracks. So that is my list. Probably a pretty controversial one, especially with the pockets and the crimps being down here. And I'm not intentionally hating on cracks, but I just bad at it. So I don't enjoy it. It's kind of painful to me, and I'm just not good at it. So yeah. So that's my climbing hold tier list. This one should make more sense in bouldering grades. Anyways, that's my list for this one. So again, put in the comments what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And then if you have any ideas for future tier lists, ideally climbing related, please let me know again in the comments, and I'll try to make a video on that. But anyways, for now, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.